I'm back for another video. My name is Josh Kasich, and today is my Star Blazers: The Quest for Iscandar review. Now, this is an anime that came out in the 80s, so obviously it's pretty old, and it has kind of 3 parts to it. I have not seen part 2 or part 3 yet, so it'll be a while before I do reviews on those, but obviously I did see the part 1, and that's what I'm going to be reviewing today. Now, you could consider these 3 different series or seasons just the way they were made and designed, but that's it's really like how you want to see it. Usually you have a series is the entire thing, and a series is made up of seasons, so that's how I would normally describe it, but it's just how this was made, so it's a little different. Now, kind of getting into the plot. So essentially what you have going on is that you have Earth being attacked by the Gamilas. Gamilas are from a planet called Gamilon, and they're a planet in another galaxy, apparently. Not just a solar system, but in another galaxy. And Gamilon wasn't their original planet name, or the Gamilons isn't their original name. They were a species of aliens that left their original homeworld and conquered other planets, and and their final place they've landed was on Gamilon. Unfortunately, Gamilon is kind of destroying itself with the volcanoes and everything, and so they need a new place to live. Unfortunately, for some reason, they can't live on any of the other planets they conquered. It makes no sense to me, but they decided to go conquer Earth. And Earth was proving to be a resistance, so they thought that maybe if they destroy Earth and then terraform it after defeating the Earth, destroy the Earth, not blow it up, destroy the surface and stuff, that would help defeat the Earthlings, and once they're defeated, they would terraform the planet back to something they could live on. And so they had these radiation planet bombs that destroyed the entire surface of the Earth. But the Earthlings were still fighting on. They created underground cities and everything to live. But unfortunately, the radiation is seeking through the ground, and eventually they won't be able to live on Earth at all. And so they only have a year left to survive. And so that's kind of what is going on. And so the show opens up with a battle with the Earthlings versus the Gamilons near Pluto, where the main flagship is led by Captain Avatar, and he's also during this battle he kind of gets injured with I'm not sure if it's during this battle or his pre-story, but he gets injured with some radiation within this show, but he was able to escape with the help of another ship led by Alex Wildstar, who is the older brother of one of the main characters, or the main character, you could say, Derek Wildstar. And now he sacrifices himself so that Captain Avatar to escape. Now, also during this battle, unfortunately, Captain Avatar's son also died, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Now, he doesn't know that I'm not sure if he knows that he's been injured with some radiation. I'm not sure, because it is not revealed that he has radiation poisoning until he faints somewhere a little bit later into the show. Now, they go back to Earth. Now, in the process, a ship kind of flies by and crash lands on Mars, where we get to see Derek Wildstar and a character named Mark Venture. And they go out and they find the ship, and there was a woman in there, but she unfortunately died. But she has this message, and they take message back to Earth, and all of them kind of watch it. It's a message from a Queen Starsha of Iscandar. And she talks to them about how they only have a year left before they're going to die and they're going to be done, and that she's giving this message because she has a way to save the Earth and all of them with this thing called the Cosmo DNA, and that they need to get to Iscandar in order to get the Cosmo DNA and save Earth, and they need to all do this within 1 year. And so she gives them plans for what they call the called the wave motion engine. And so they kind of built that into a ship called the Yamato. And this is not just any ship. This is the Yamato from World War II. See, since all the oceans are gone, you can see the ships on the surface. Now, history, in real history, they wouldn't be able to do this because the Yamato was actually split in two and part of it's upside down in another area here. But within the context of the show, it's all still whole and it's not upside down. Part of it's on the surface, but they digged under it and built a city there, and they have been rebuilding the Yamato into a space battleship where they put the wave motion engine on there. But being Earthlings, they also figured out how to turn the wave motion engine. They took the technology for that and the plans and reconfigured it into another thing on the ship called the wave motion gun, which is, with the power of the gun, think about the Death Star. The Death Star, right? That's how powerful the wave motion gun is. It's pretty powerful. And so then you got obviously joining the ship is Derek Wildstar, Mark Venture, Dr. Sane, who's the doctor on there, his kind of partner IQ-9, who is an artificial intelligent robot that doesn't really understand feelings, so he's kind of snarky and has like a very snarky personality, and like a know-it-all is kind of the idea. And then he has a nurse called Nova Forrester, one of another main leads, who falls in love, and she and Derek falls in love, but she's more than a nurse on the board of the Yamato. She actually becomes the navigations for the ship, as well as some other very useful stuff on the ship, like crew morale and other important things. And so then they get on the Yamato and they blast out of the surface, and they go on a adventure for Iscandar, hence the name Quest for Iscandar. And so then they go off, and along the way they had a battle against the Gamelons. Now the Gamelons are led by a character named Deslak. And all these characters, their names were changed from the Japanese to American English names, which obviously they don't really do nowadays anymore. They usually keep the Japanese names now in anime, but this is the 80s, and where they changed names to fit more of the American audience, because they very judgmental of the American audience. In fact, they took out a lot of the deaths out of this series. Those characters still die. You don't see that on screen except for one important character. But yeah, the rest are really cut off because Americans can't. People editing and doing the dub edit it out. They think Americans couldn't handle that, and that they shouldn't watch that or whatever, some weird reason. I don't know. And the original name for Deslak was something that sounds very similar to Hitler's name. So obviously they changed that name because they definitely were judgmental about Americans, saying, "Oh, Hitler was bad. He was our enemy. We can't use his name or anything that sounds like his name. We have to be anti that." None of that in American culture. Just no. And then they also changed the name from the Space Battleship the show in Japanese was called the Space Battleship Yamato, but they changed it to Star Blazers as another reason to cut the Americans from the Japanese. They attacked Americans can't handle Japanese stuff that were during World War II because of things they did and everything and whatever stupidity. So that's kind of how it is. So it's a little unfortunate, but it is how it is. But despite those kind of problems, the overall show is that doesn't really hurt the show anyway. But basically along the way, obviously they have to deal with the Gamelons. There's one part where they kind of get trapped into Jupiter, where there's this floating island in there, where Gamelons are on, and this is the first time they use the wave motion gun, and they destroy the island and escape. The next, they use the wave motion engine to make jumps, because obviously they have to travel long distance in a short period of time, and that's the point of the engine. And then there's another battle sequence near Pluto, where on Pluto the Gamelons had this ray that was destroying the Yamato, and then they crash landed on planet Pluto. And yes, it's a planet. I don't care what scientists say. It's a planet, which had water, and they sink under that, which is not accurate at all. There's no water on Pluto. In fact, if there was, it would be ice, because the sun doesn't reach there. There might be some other stars in there, but it is a cold rock. That's what it is. It's a planet that's a cold rock. So that's kind of how it is. So I don't even think there's ice on that planet. So it's like, whatever. But they're able to destroy the gun. Some people did die during this time that they didn't show on screen or whatever. And then they obviously destroy the weapon. They make time jumps. And there's other battles between, the Gamelons that they had. There's one point where they had this huge fleet of Gamelons, a huge fleet of Gamelons, and they have this new weapon bomb that could spin right into the wave motion gun. And the idea is that if they use the wave motion weapon, it will explode, or the bomb will eventually just explode, and everything, all of them would die with all the energy and stuff. But with Sandor, Steven Sandor, who is the tech guy on the ship, he's able to spin the ship out, and it actually hits one of the flagships, and they all kind of crash into each other because of the explosion and stuff. So pretty much the entire fleet here gets taken out, which is like, what? Which is crazy. And we also find out that Sandor actually has prosthetic legs. That's because there was one point where they had Derek and him had to go. They were being attacked by this ship, whatever that they had to deal with. That had like robots and stuff. It was kind of living there. It was blasting stuff. I can't really remember exactly how it played out, but obviously they had to destroy that. And that we find out that he can use his limbs as a bomb to destroy the ship, but he doesn't die. Derek was able to go back and save him, and then they keep going. There was one point where they had to deal with a planet of bugs that were basically following the Gamelons, and there was an uprising against the queen there because they didn't like how the queen is friends with the Gamelons and everything that they're doing and everything. There was a sequence there, and also I think I can't remember if it was Pluto, but one planet they landed on, they found the ship that Alex Wistar was leading, and then Derek finds his gun. That's an important plot point. But then obviously they make enough jumps. They finally reach the galaxy where Iscandar is, and they find out that the Gamelons is a twin planet. The planet is a twin planet of Iscandar, and they had a message from Starsha, that they were trying. Starsha was trying to message them on the ship, but the Gamelons were breaking frequency, and they tricked the Yamato and all of them to kind of land inside of the Gamelon, where it's full of volcanoes and acid rain and acid water. That's why the planet's dying. And the idea was that they were going to melt the ship and destroy it that way, which they were doing. The plan was working, but then they were during this time period they had obviously with the whole weapon feed, that weapon bomb, it kind of destroyed their wave motion gun, so they obviously had to fix it and stuff, but they were able to fix it at the last minute and pretty much destroy the Gamelon civilization and able to escape. Then they get a message from Starsha. They were really thinking that maybe this was all a trap by Starsha and she was working, but it turns out that's obviously not true, and she messaged them and apologized for not telling them everything, and then they land on Iscandar, where they meet Starsha, and that she's the only Iskandarian left, and she finds out their sister died, because that was the princess or whatever that unfortunately died in the crash, and so that's kind of what's going on. They they put the Cosmo DNA onto the ship. And it also turns out that Alex Wildstar is alive, and he was on Iscandar. Now, there are these people on the ship that were tired of this journey and think like nothing's going to work out, they're all going to die. So they kidnap Nova because she's the woman, really the only woman on board. And they thought, oh, taking her, they can, she will have to fall in love with them and have children or whatever, so they could serve on Iscandar or whatever. But Derek, like I said, I mentioned Derek and Nova throughout the show kind of fall in love with each other. And so, obviously he goes and saves her. And unfortunately, on that island that they go to, because Iscandar is also unstable, that island gets destroyed, and a bunch of those people die, even though they don't show them. And they all go back onto the Yamato. Now, originally Alex Wildstar was going to go with them, but Starsha kind of and him fell in love with each other, but they didn't really tell each other that. And she was really upset. She was showing her feelings that she's saying that he could go, but she doesn't really want him to go. And obviously Nova and them figure that she's in love with him, and they tell her to tell Alex her true feelings. And so she does. She says that she is in love with him, and then runs away because she feels like he's going to leave her. But then he decides to stay with her, and then the Yamato leaves. And obviously Derek and Alex have a emotional reunion and an emotional bye. Obviously they're brothers, so that's an important point. So after that, they obviously leave, and they were going back to Earth. Now, throughout this, I forgot to mention that Derek also becomes kind of co-captain of the ship because because obviously I mentioned that Avatar had radiation poisoning and he was in bed a lot, and so that's a key point throughout the show. And another important character I forgot to mention is Orion, Chief Orion. Him and his crew runs the engine or whatever and makes sure it's all running and everything. That's an important character. But they go back now. On the way there, Deathlock is still alive on a ship, and he kind of blasts into the Yamato with because it has a huge gun on it. They attach the ship to the Yamato and they break in, throwing some radiation in there. And now the radiation was poisoning it was going to poison stuff. So Nova goes, and they've built the Cosmo DNA machine onto the ship, and Nova goes there with the help of Sandor. But now Sandor is in a protected station, and so that he wouldn't be affected by the radiation. But Nova activating the thing was affected by the radiation, but she was able to activate the Cosmo DNA on the ship, destroying all the radiation. And Deathlock and all of them had to leave, and then Yamato destroys his ship. Supposedly he dies, but from my understanding, he does live, and he's in part 2. But whatever, that's besides the point. And unfortunately, she comes to the radiation, and she doesn't die, but she is in a coma. And Derek really cares for her and is watching over her and really wishing she would wake up. And then they get to Earth, and Avatar unfortunately dies in his bed after seeing Earth, and then Derek carries Nova to the command station and look out the windows and see Earth, and then she wakes up, and that's kind of how they all celebrate, and that's kind of where the series ends, guys. Well, so overall, my thoughts. I love this series. I love this series. I enjoyed all the characters. They're very. I can't say Alex Wildstar. Derek Wildstar. He's cool as a main character. I like his kind of love story with Nova. I really enjoyed that part. Overall, I thought it was pretty cool. The action sequences were amazing, especially even for its time period, where obviously this is the 80s, so technology and all that is not the best, but they had to obviously hand draw everything at that time period, and they did a nice job with that. Like I said, the writing, the overall story, I enjoyed the story overall. There are writing problems throughout the show, but it's not that big of a. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's still overall a really good show, and obviously I can't really say anything about the art style and animation because obviously it's outdated. I mean, it came out in the 80s, but you can't really complain about that. Like I said, it was the 80s, you know, they didn't have what we have now, so you can't really complain about that. And I think even for that time period, it was really well done with the animation art style. So, yeah. And, yeah, I think that's pretty much everything, guys. I definitely do recommend this show. Like, I don't think it's on any stream services, unfortunately. You might have to buy it if you want to watch. It's like $60 on Amazon, or no, like $50. It's like $40 to $60 on Amazon. But yeah, so definitely go check that series out if you can. And yeah, that's all my thoughts, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you're new, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know for my next upload. My YouTube channel, website link, my Twitter and Instagram are all down in the description as always. And thank you. Goodbye.